Chapter 11:12, Traveling Notebook. In the magnificent palace above the gray fog, Klein stretched out his right hand and tapped the edge of the long, mottled table as he muttered silently. The 5 large family clans of the Tudor dynasty are Ammon, Abraham, Antigonus, Jacob, and Tamara. The one who helped Alistair Tudor become Blood Emperor were the kings of angels, Adam, Ammon, and Abraham. Can it be inferred that, during the time of the Tudor-Trunsost United Empire, there were the consuls, Ammon and Abraham standing beside Alistair? If that's the case, Blood Emperor Alistair Tudor didn't have plans on switching paths in the beginning. When he secretly constructed the mausoleums, he likely would have sought the help of one or more of the following: Ammon, Abraham, and Antigonus. As for Bethel Abraham, he's Mr. Door, and he grasps the apprentice pathway. When it comes to teleportation, even a true deity might not be as good as him. So, could the teleportation nexus in the Tudor ruins be set up by Bethel Abraham? There's a high chance of that. Yes, only important figures like Mr. Door can enter and exit a secret ruin at such a level. Even my divination above the gray fog is unable to pinpoint its location. Likewise, it's difficult for an angel who wields concealment to enter it directly. Amidst his thoughts, Klein was leaning more and more towards his own guess being closer to that of reality. I wonder if Mr. Door left behind any relevant information to provide accurate coordinates or methods of entry. This would require Miss Magician to ask her teacher again. I really hope that Miss Magician can become a traveler as soon as possible. That way, she wouldn't need to rely on writing letters to contact her teacher. She could teleport over directly. Yes, she can do it now, but the act of being able to record so many traveling spells would scare her teacher and arouse suspicion. It's really troublesome. If there are no records left behind by the Abraham family, do I have to attempt to converse with Mr. Door? Not only is this troublesome, but it's also dangerous. Most importantly, Miss Magician isn't even sequence 5 yet. She hasn't been able to clearly hear, much less respond to Mr. Door. It's impossible for me to turn her into my marionette or descend onto her body. Early on, Klein had seriously considered communicating with Mr. Door through Miss Magician when he first pulled her above the gray fog. Later, after he came to learn more, he grew increasingly apprehensive about the idea, and he didn't dare take the risk. Furthermore, the level he was at now lacked the measures that spelled sufficiency and security. As his thoughts churned, he suddenly sighed and said a word: patience. At sea, on an island with relatively high pirate activity. Fors raised her glass and took a sip of the transparent and colorless liquid in anticipation. Her face scrunched up as if she had tasted something hard to swallow. Isn't this Lanty proof too inferior? Why are they having so much fun drinking this? Fors put down her cup, raised her right hand, and fanned her mouth. She softly muttered, "Apart from the alcohol content, it doesn't have any other strengths. Oh right, it's also cheap." After drinking a mouthful of cold water from another cup, Fors picked up a fountain pen and wrote in a rather poor quality notebook. The pirates here are only in pursuit of strong liquor while keeping an eye on the price. To them, being drunk is more important than anything else. 3 pirate friends that I know have told me that this port city was built by them. At first, they only docked their ships here to hide their loot and settle their families. Later on, the bankrupt adventurers and tax fugitives came to this place and settled down. They also plowed the lands on the island and built houses. Finally, an entrepot market was formed, and the merchants at sea swarmed over like sharks smelling blood. At this point, Fors looked up at the 3 pirates curled up in a corner. "Do you have anything else to say?" The 3 burly pirates trembled at the same time and said with a mournful expression, "No, really, we have nothing." I have to say that it feels pretty good to imitate Mr. World's attitude when it comes to dealing with pirates. Fors sighed and shook her head. She retracted her gaze and continued writing. "There's a liberal mood here. If the women are interested in any man, they can, like the men, offer a price. Similarly, it works when a man catches the eye of another man, or when a woman catches the eye of another woman. According to my 3 pirate friends, due to the long periods of repression and boredom while drifting out at sea, it's inevitable for some people to experiment with certain forbidden taboos. In this aspect, they've been very honest and even described their experiences. In addition, They informed me of things that I never dared believed. Pirates actually advocate the concept of democracy and justice. This has completely overturned my understanding, but on careful thought, it doesn't seem difficult to understand. At least they didn't say that they were pursuing justice. The explanation from my three pirate friends is that when a person with his weapons doesn't have absolute, overwhelming strength, it's always the case of there being tyranny from the majority on a pirate ship. Furthermore, a large ship requires a lot of people to run it. When these factors are combined, it makes the pirate crew very particular about democracy. There will always be a captain who will be voted by his or her crew now, and then to be banished or even killed. I believe that if a captain possesses absolute strength, the pirate crew would definitely develop another style of governance. At this point, Fours looked out the window again and saw that, under the blue sky and white clouds, buildings made of wood and rocks formed a dense circle around a market. From time to time, she could see a few children in tattered clothes skipping past. Upon hearing the extremely lively commotion, Fours wrote again. There's no urban planning here at all. Everyone casually builds their houses and expands their borders. As a result, many roads only allow for one person to walk through. There's no sunlight at all. My first reaction is that once a fire breaks out, the outcome will be extremely terrifying. Backland once had a similar tragedy. However, my three pirate friends told me that this isn't something worth worrying about, because it's humid and often rains here. People with special powers never keep it under wraps. This place is still under the influence of war. Although it's chaotic, it gives people a sense of tranquility. Also, what they're most afraid of isn't the King of the Five Seas, Nast, or all sorts of horrifying legends, but rather of the crazy adventurer, Jayaman Sparrow. Every pirate is warned by their peers not to drink too late into the night. They shouldn't take a walk in the middle of the night or use small alleys. That's because it might lead to them going missing, and the murderer is rumored to be that gentleman. Is this a form of hunting? As she wrote, For's expression gradually turned solemn. She hurriedly pulled out another stack of paper and added on the content. There's a unique coldness that wafts through the hospital at night, and the darkness outside the window is much thicker than other places. No one knows why that young lady who lives in a single ward gets her family members to bring her mushrooms and weeds. No one knows where these things end up. In short, there were no signs of any fires in the ward, and there's no abandoned junk outside. This makes the nurses suspect that the patient is secretly eating mushrooms and weeds. Standing in front of the mountain, afternoon town, which was divided into 3 regions of the top, middle, and bottom, had a camp set up by the city of Silver. Derek Berg clasped his hands and placed them in front of his mouth, softly chanting, "The fool that doesn't belong to this era." After piously chanting, he stood up and picked up the ancient bronze cross that was covered with sharp spikes, walking towards the bonfire outside. As the unshadowed crucifix couldn't coexist with other mystical items, his giant hammer named Thunder God's Roar could only be temporarily left to Haim and Joshua to carry with them. As the city of Silver's expedition team gathered, Klein, who was in Backland, had already arrived above the gray fog. He picked up the Sea God Scepter, and with the help of one of the crimson stars burgeoning and contracting, he saw the situation in Afternoon Town, and he expanded his vision towards the giant king's court. If he didn't use the prayer light and the Sea God Scepter, Klein was unable to expand his field of view by relying only on the crimson stars. As his gaze moved, a beautiful but deep dusk gradually appeared in his eyes. In the area where dusk was frozen, there were countless palaces, countless towers, and many majestic city walls. They were magnificent and opulent, resembling a miracle found in myths and legends. Furthermore, they were frozen in time. The giant king's court. As he tried to zoom in with his vision, Klein realized that he was unable to see the exact situation beneath the dusk. As expected of the divine kingdom of an ancient god, and it's not the kind that has been abandoned or hidden. It's no wonder that the kings of angels chose this place for a secret gathering. I hope that little son's prayer after entering the giant king's court will help me see it more clearly. Klein nodded thoughtfully. At the same time, he focused a portion of his attention on Shepherd Elder Lovia. He discovered that this lady had an illusory silver armor covering her entire body. This should be the evil spirit she grazed. I haven't seen any effects from the true creator yet. Klein slowly let out a breath and patiently waited for the subsequent developments. After a while, under the lead of Chief Colin Iliad, the 9-man expedition team, including Derek Berg, left the afternoon town camp. They followed the stairs paved with gray stones and walked towards the peak of the mountain. They were at least sequenced 6 Beyonders, and most of them belonged to the warrior pathway. They moved at relatively fast speeds, clearing a few waves of monsters that were mainly rotten giants. Finally, they arrived at the region shrouded by dusk. They were shocked by the grand and epic building, and no one spoke for a short period of time. This was also the first time they had encountered a place where there were no flashes of lightning, a place that was illuminated by natural light. Demon Hunter Colin narrowed his eyes. He took out a small metal bottle and drank the liquid inside. After their evolution over the many generations, they were more accustomed to the dark environment with frequent lightning. They were instinctively afraid of such a situation that was in a state of frozen twilight. It was both a point of hope and fear. After drinking the prepared potion and mentally preparing himself, Colin Iliad and Shepard Lovia led the members of the expedition team as they stepped into the region illuminated by the sunset. Before Derek could sense anything, he saw the unshadowed crucifix in his hand drop, revealing a corporeal form formed from pure light. However, the light emitted by the corporeal body was no longer pure. It was tainted with an orange-red color unique to dusk. Right on the heels of that, Derek felt his condition plummet. It was as if he was at the weakest point of the day, ready to welcome the approaching night.